Develop real self-confidence through competence. One of my favorite cousins is a very, very confident person. He talks a big game. He likes to brag. Sometimes he brags about stuff that most people wouldn't want to brag about, but that's my cousin. Every time I find myself in a room, he's always going to be the loudest person and you cannot miss him. You know that he's there. That's how big his presence is. The problem is my cousin is very scary. He feels that whenever he works on a project, it will eventually fail. He's so afraid of failing that he'd rather talk about success rather than work for it. This doesn't mean that I don't have a good time when I'm around him. This doesn't mean that I dislike him. In fact, it's the opposite. I have a really great time around him. I find his words inspiring. But I also know how to plug in the rest of the picture. My cousin developed his self-confidence from a high level of self-esteem. I've already mentioned why this is a problem. If you want to be successful, you need to develop real self-confidence. This can only be achieved through competence. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's inconvenient. I know it would take quite a bit of sacrifice and time, but that's the way it is. This is the real deal. You're not faking it until you make it. You're not engaged in some sort of group hypnosis where the more you project your self-image or self-esteem to other people, the more they bounce it back to you and you wallow in this artificial world that you create. Unfortunately, such artificial worlds are like bubbles. It only takes one inconvenient challenge to blow up that bubble. You need to focus on developing the real deal. And this is real self-confidence built through competence. The benefits of the real deal. What exactly do you get developing self-confidence through competence? Well, first of all, your self-confidence will be sustainable. Even if you don't succeed the first time, the second time, or even the first 100 times, you still will remain self-confident because you know that you are competent enough. So you keep trying and trying until you succeed. Now, compare this with somebody with brittle self-confidence. It doesn't take much for them to lose harder. Even the slightest inconvenience, discomfort, or challenge is enough to discourage them. In fact, they can get discouraged so quickly, so badly that they give up. You have to remember success is a marathon. It is not a sprint. Sometimes you get it the first time you try, but oftentimes it's a long journey up ahead. You have to keep trying and trying and trying, and that's why you need sustainable self-confidence. You can't just hit a snag and automatically start doubting your ability to get things done and eventually quit. That's not going to help you. The real deal is also something that you trigger on command. When you're really confident about yourself, it is something that you activate on command. It doesn't depend on things being right. It doesn't depend on how you're feeling. It doesn't depend on how other people around you feel. It doesn't depend on whether people are being supportive or not. It doesn't depend on any of that. In fact, it is completely free of your circumstances and is based on something inside you. It is real precisely because it is resting on the hard, unshakable foundation of competence. You've seen this happen before. You've made things happen before. You can see with your own eyes the connection between your willpower and your ability to get things done. This is the real deal. On-command self-confidence is your secret weapon. You can blow everybody away with this because you can perform at a moment's notice or at a snap of a finger. Other people have to wait for the circumstances to be right. Well, I'm telling you, you're going to wait forever because tomorrow never comes. You're just going to have to deal with reality as you find it right here, right now. Call up self-confidence that gets the job done right. Another great thing about self-confidence based on competence is that you're able to get the job done the right way the first time around. Please understand that if you have the hollow self-confidence based on an inflated self-esteem, you can get stuffed up. Sure, from time to time you get inspired the right way. There are the right people around, they're seeing the right things, and you're able to do it. However, can you do it right day after day like clockwork? Chances are the answer is no. Why? Again, you are dependent on how you feel. Did things line up the right way? Were you inspired properly? Did things just happen the right way? Well, there are just so many things that you're dependent on for you to get the job done right. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, you're probably not going to get rewarded all that well if you're hot and cold. Let me tell you the reason McDonald's is a fast food giant. It's not because of the quality of their food, okay? Let's get that out of the way. Maybe you're a big McDonald's fan or maybe not. But most people who have eaten more than their fair share of burgers will readily admit that McDonald's burgers are not the best tasting burgers. At best, they are in the middle of the bell curve. Still, why does McDonald's make billions upon billions of dollars every single year? Here's the secret. It may not be the best burger, but regardless of which McDonald's branch you walk into, whether it's in Manila, Tokyo, Johannesburg, Paris, Los Angeles, or Rio de Janeiro, you get the exact same taste and exact same quality. That's what people are paying for and expecting when they walk into a restaurant with those golden arches. When you're competent, you perform at a certain predictable level. This ability is going to open many doors for you. Compare a person who can perform like that with a person who may produce the very best work one day and then, for the rest of the month, flat out fails. That person is probably going to either remain stuck near the bottom or needs to get into a different field quickly. If you are a writer, you can probably manage if you operate on that level. Maybe you only need to write one amazing novel and the rest would basically be mediocre and you could still do well. However, if you are in a field that requires a certain level of performance, and it may not be all that high, but you have to be consistent, then you have to be competent. This is what getting the job done right means. It's not just a question of getting the job done, but getting it done right consistently. Sadly, people with brittle or hollow self-confidence may be able to get the job done from time to time, or even get the job done excellently once in a blue moon. Unfortunately, this is not enough. The real deal about competence-based self-confidence. If you develop this type of self-confidence, you develop self-confidence that cannot be taken away from you. It cannot be derailed. It is a product of your will, not your circumstances. You become more persistent, you become more habitual, and you become more courageous. You know that you already have it in you, so it's a matter of just trying and trying and trying. Even if you are faced with really daunting challenges, you find the courage within you to try again and again and again. You know full well that this self-confidence is rooted in your personality. It is not something that flows from your circumstances. It is not something that is a product of inspiration. It's something that you can call on demand.